briefing you today on libel lawsuits. A lot of us in here are students, and we graduate into a world where libel lawsuits are more prevalent than ever. According to Pay Scale magazine, the average salary of a college graduate is $37,000 exiting college. You take this against the average cost of a libel lawsuit, which is $1 million, it's a pretty huge differential. To shed some light on this differential, I'm going to give you a few examples. Most people probably in here played Monopoly before, whether you want to or your friends have forced you to. But you know when you play Monopoly, someone gets Boardwalk in Park Place, the game's pretty much over. It's the Microsoft Monopoly. Well, think about if you're playing with your own money, and it's real money. It'd be like landing on Boardwalk with hotels on it 1,000 consecutive times. Or for more practical people in here, it'd be like having to take a speech class and paying for it 1,100 times here at UNF. So obviously they're extremely expensive and costly. They can be avoided though. It does take some basic steps. I'll give you some expert advice, easy solutions that we can try to avoid these costly lawsuits. The biggest problem is just a lack of education in our high schools and our colleges. People do not know what is in the First Amendment or how the law has evolved over time. An example of how the law has evolved over time is 5 years ago, a lawsuit involving the internet is just unheard of. But recently, with Twitter, Facebook, and MySpace, it's become a very dangerous reality. In an article titled, "Tweet This, You're Being Sued," Courtney Love was sued by one of her fashion designers online because she tweeted that she was a nasty, lying, hoe-bag thief, and also accused her of being a crack addict. This is a little extreme, but it shows that just saying mean things about people can get you sued. Just by show of hands, I probably didn't even have to do this, but who here uses Facebook? Yeah, everybody, right? A very recent Facebook case was where two men in office, First and Rafael, he first made a fake Facebook of Rafael, and he changed his sexual orientation, his religious views. He did it as a prank. Well, Rafael didn't take it as too much of a funny prank, and he ended up suing him for $200,000. Rafael lost his job. An ex-employee of Horizon Hotels did an interview with the Otago Daily Times. In this interview, she simply said, "Asbestos in the walls is bad for you. Horizon Hotels doesn't seem to think so." So it's just kind of almost like probably a jab at her old employer. But at the same time, she ended up getting sued for $600,000 and lost her job as well. So little sarcastic comments are things that you don't think are going to be a big deal. They can really cost you. These can destroy your career and your financial well-being if you lose. They can cost you your life savings and also your job. And not just because you lose your job because of a lawsuit, but a company's not going to want to deal with someone who's been involved in lawsuits. It's a huge liability. But one of the bigger problems in actually losing is even if you win your libel lawsuit, if the defense stands, there's a minimum of an $8,000 court fee and hundreds of hours. It can take years to defend yourself. You can also lose your reputation. In our society, perception is reality. Even though you're technically innocent until proven guilty, when people see you in a courtroom, a lot of times they're just going to assume you're guilty. So you want to stay away from it if all possible. In an interview with Brian Thornton, a media expert here at UNF, he said while working at the Hawaii Observer that one of his coworkers wrote a small article about corrupt police on one of the islands, which was common knowledge. But because he didn't have proof, absolute proof, him and the Daily Times got sued for $1.5 million. He lost his career and all of his life savings. So, this is a huge problem, but there's a simple solution. If there's a lack of education, better educate our high school and college students. With an interview with expert Bo Mahaffey, a lawyer from South Carolina, he said most American citizens don't know what the First Amendment contains, let alone how it's interpreted. So I'll just give you a few words or figures that can help you understand libel law better. First is public and private figures. Public figures is someone that's in the limelight, whether it be a government official like Obama, an actor like Tom Hanks, or even a criminal like the Unabomber. Anyone who's been broadcasted into the front of a media controversy or is in the limelight is a public figure. A private figure is just anyone who is not a public figure. If you're a public figure, you have to prove when you're suing someone that they had a knowledge of falsity, or it's a fancy way of just saying that they lied. When you're a private figure, that they just have to simply prove that you just had a reckless disregard for the truth. You didn't really look up the facts. So this is good to know when you're writing about someone. If they're a public figure, you have a lot more leeway in what you can say. Whereas if you're talking about just a friend, coworker, anyone else, just a slight mishap can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. A few more simple solutions, simple steps that you can use to avoid these libel lawsuits. They're extremely simple. When in doubt, just throw it out. Just lose it. If you're not exactly sure if something's true or false, throw it out and rewrite it. I'm not saying you have to rewrite something so it's not the truth, or don't write it at all, but just be careful with what you say. Truth is your ally. Also, golden rule. If this is kind of cheesy, and you hear this when you're a little kid, and you feel like a little kid when someone tells this to you, but it's simple. If you don't want something said about you, don't say it about someone else. And this is especially important in the workplace. Don't tell the person down the hall that they're a lazy bum. Don't say that, oh, I think this person's stealing batteries from the utility closet. I mean, though it seems simple and harmless, if it damages their character, you can be sued. Also, double check your information. If you're not sure, just call and ask. If it's a journal article, call the person you're writing about. If it's someone in the office, ask them before you publish something. Now, what this would look like if you implemented these ideas and steps, is we would have more free speech. We have fought for hundreds of years to keep free speech in our country. Libel lawsuits not only hamper the speech, but they hamper the truth. They have the less fear of being sued leads to less hardworking business people losing their careers and lives. Lawsuits are expensive, time-consuming, and extremely disruptive. They happen very easily, but are also easy to avoid if you just follow a simple solution. Ask yourself, is it the truth? If not, be careful what you say. Call and check your sources. If you're unsure, just throw it out. I hate to see anyone in this room lose your life, or not your life, but lose your career or your life savings on something, which is actually very plausible. Many people do. So, if you take one thing away from this, just know that a few minutes of laziness can cause you a lifetime of debt.